gentlemen, the hour has arrived for us to open up our regular scheduled Board of Supervisors meeting for the County of Surrey, May 6, 2021 meeting. And at this time, we are so elated to have the pastor of the St. Paul Holiness Church of Surrey County with us to give us our invocation, Pastor Welton Blunt. So we're going to ask at this time if he will lead us in our invocation of prayer. He's with us via landline. Let us pray. Most holy, wise, and eternal Father, we come humbly before your throne of mercy and grace, beseeching your divine guidance and direction for the county of Surrey. We ask that you would bless us tonight, lead us and guide us, give us the wisdom to continue to move the county forward. We ask your blessings upon this meeting on tonight, and that your spirit of unity rest, Lord, and that all things that we do will be decent and in order and pleasing unto you. Bless us now as only you can. Let the spirit of cooperation reign, and we'll be so very careful to give you the praise. We ask that you will continue to bless a county called Surrey, bless the citizens, Lord, and bless all of the efforts that go forth to make us a better place to live. And we ask that you would just continue to hold us in the hollow of your hand, and we shall be held in thee. It is in the name that's above every name, in the name of Jesus I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. At this time, we do call this meeting to order, and we do at this time call for a moment of silence. Thank you. At this time, we ask that we would stand and all join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Fellow board members, you have before you our working agenda for this evening. Are there any questions on the agenda? About consent items, new business, unfinished business, have presentations and public comments and board comments. We have reports, appointments, county administrative report, and information. Are there any questions on the agenda? If there be no questions on the agenda, could we get a roll call vote for the adoption of the agenda for our meeting on tonight? Well, we are present, so we don't need a roll call vote. Could I get a motion to adopt the agenda for the meeting on tonight? It's been virtual for so long.
Mr. Chairman, so moved.
Have a motion, could we get a second?
Second, Chairman.
Been properly moved and second. All in favor of the adoption of the agenda, let it be known by the vote of aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There is none. Agenda has been adopted. Board members, we have before us, the first order of business is the consent items. For the consent items, we have 7 different entities. First is the approval of the draft minutes for our April meeting, approval of accounts payable for the month of March, a resolution for the designation of Grace Creek Marina and Grace Creek Trail as a recreational area of Surrey County for the citizens and visitors. We have a request to merge our voting precinct, the request for a public hearing for this, appointment of professional assessors required for the year 2022, the general reassessment, Wingate Appraisal Services, Resolution 2021-08, Business Appreciation Month, the month of May, and Resolution 2021-09, National Tourism Week Proclamation. All of these items have been given to us in our packet. Are there any questions on our consent items? If there be no questions on the consent items, do we get a motion to adopt or accept the consent items as given?
Mr. Chairman, so moved to accept our agenda for the evening, our consent items for the evening.
Thank you. I have a motion for the acceptance of our consent items. Can we get a second?
Second the motion.
It has been properly moved and second. All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Our consent items have been adopted and accepted. The next item on our agenda is our new business. We have a 6-year secondary road improvement plan from VDOT. Mr. Glenn Brooks and Ms. Frances Bailey. And they're here, anyone here to make a presentation on that? Board members, if you can find it in your packet. If you can find it in your packet, see what final page that is, so we can give some attention to that. That would be do we have the page number for that on the new business that's in our packet?
Chairman, it looks like page 174.
174, thank you.
Get Glenn Brooks on virtual.
We have a virtual, okay, thank you. Okay. Thank you. We have a virtual presentation. We're standing by. Mr. Brooks.
Hello, yes, can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
I understood Ms. Bailey was going to give the introduction.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Elliott?
Yes.
Yes, Ms. Frances Bailey is going to give the staff report, and followed by Mr. Glenn Brooks.
Okay, we're standing by.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
Good afternoon, Ms. Bailey.
Can everyone hear me?
We can.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, I will be speaking briefly regarding the county's 6-year secondary road improvement plan. We also have with us tonight Mr. Glenn Brooks from VDOT. He is online and will be able to answer any technical questions that you may have. The county's current 6-year secondary road improvement plan extends from The county's current 6-year secondary road improvement plan extends from fiscal year 2022 through 2027. As always, we say the projections presented in the plan are based on anticipated funds being available for allocation in the coming years. The funding amounts can change and have the tendency to fluctuate as the financial climate of the state changes. The total projected allocation for Perry County over that 6-year period is $133,474. At this time, staff is recommending approval of the plan as presented. The state requires that a public hearing be held regarding the 6-year secondary road improvement plan and a resolution be signed in agreement with the recommendation. A public hearing date is being requested for Thursday, June 3rd, 2021 regarding the plan for fiscal years 2022 through 2027. Per the Code of Virginia, Section 33.1-70.01, the advertisements for the 6-year secondary road improvement plan must be posted once a week for 2 consecutive weeks before the hearing date. This concludes my presentation. At this time, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I would like to defer to Mr. Glenn Brooks to answer any technical questions that you may have regarding the plan.
Thank you, Ms. Bailey, for the report. Board members, do you have any questions for Mr. Brooks in regards to the 6-year secondary road plan?
No, sir.
No question, board members?
No.
If there be no question, it is before us a request for a public hearing on the 6-year secondary road improvement plan for June the 3rd, 2021. The chair will entertain a motion on the request for the public hearing at this time.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion for the public hearing on June the 3rd, 2021. Could we get a second?
Second the motion.
It has been properly moved and second. All in favor of the public hearing for the 6-year secondary road improvement plan for VDOT for the County of Surrey, let it be known by the voting sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. The next item on new business is the electronic summons system from the Sheriff's Department. It's another request for a public hearing. Do we have someone from the Sheriff's Department to present on this? Anyone from the Sheriff's Department? Yes, please. It's page 185 in our packet.
I'll just try and do a brief summary.
Thank you, Ms. Powell.
You're welcome. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Before you is a request for public hearing for June 3rd at 7 o'clock as well. The purpose of the public hearing is to adopt an ordinance that allows for a $5 fee to be assessed for defendants that are found in violation of state code or county ordinances. That $5 fee would be collected by the clerk as in other situations, and it would be remitted to the treasurer. The purpose of the fee really is just to fund software and hardware for the electronic summons system. It's my understanding that the Sheriff's Department is working on that, but I cannot give you a complete status of what they're doing. I don't want to speak out of turn. But state code does allow this fee to be adopted. It just has to be done by ordinance. And so the request is that that be scheduled for June 3rd.
Thank you, Ms. Powell. Board members, we have another request for a public hearing in regards to Virginia Code 17.1279.1, establish a $5 fee to be imposed at the General District Court of the Clerk of Surrey for a court fee, additional court fees. Could we get a motion on this request for this public hearing?
Mr. Chairman, so move.
Have a motion to approve the public hearing for the electronic summons system. Could we get a second on the motion?
Second.
It has been properly moved and second. All in favor of a public hearing on June the 3rd in regards to the electronic summons system, let it be known by the voting sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. The next item is a request for tax exemption from C. Scott Logging. It's for board discussion and Is this a request for public hearing as well? Ms. Rollins?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Yes, this is an item that was brought to your attention. Is not a request from the public hearing unless the board decides to do so. I believe the plan of action this evening was for the board to have some discussion on the item and for you all to decide whether or not you want to consider the change. And per legal, if you do want to consider a change, it will require a public hearing.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Rollins. Board members, that is on page 190 of our packet.
Thank you.
Page 190, and it is a request in conjunction with state law that's been passed that gives localities the authority to do this tax exemption. Is for logging equipment. We have an estimate of what the exemption would be. This is coming from C. Scott Logging here in the county, and is up for our discussion on tonight. On page 191, we have his official request for exemption from the business property tax. And I think this is and Ms. Rollins, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is kind of in line with what we do for the farmers as far as their equipment. Am I correct?
Chairman Elliott, just to give just a little more information, this was also brought to the board's attention on last year, if you recall, Chairman Elliott, for your consideration. And at that time, the board made a decision to defer it and to take it up for discussion during the fiscal year 21-22 budget year. So again, in terms of what has been presented from the logging company, in July of 2020, a law was passed giving localities the option to eliminate the tax on such equipment. We do have forest harvesting equipment in the county. The Commissioner of Revenue has provided us some information as to how much that tax is on that equipment in Surrey County. For 2019, the amount approximately $20,125, and in 2019, $16,500. And it is assessed at a rate of $3 per $100 of assessed value. So if the board does elect to exempt this, we just wanted to share with you what that estimated financial impact would be to Surrey County. So this is the request that we received from, as you stated, Chris Scott Logging LLC. And if the board has any other questions as pertains to the tax itself, then Mr. Jonathan Jenkins, the Commissioner of Revenue, is in the audience on this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Jenkins, can you elaborate on that a little bit more for us? Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members.
Good evening.
Taxes on forest harvest equipment a number of years ago now were taken up, and it used to be at the $4 per 100 and reduced to $3. That was done, I believe, in 2016. And as stated, the law that was passed now allows the possible exemption of forest harvest equipment to be treated as the agricultural equipment is for farmers. That was passed. So that is what the request is from Mr. Scott.
Thank you, sir. Board members, I do recall on last year we did say that we were going to table this for further discussion, and it is before us again. So what is your pleasure? Do you want to go forth with this as far as providing a public hearing and get some input from the public on this before we make any decisions?
I just have a question. How many other companies out there that may come to us and ask for this exemption? Do you know, other than?
I could check and get back with y'all to see how many we have.
I'm just wondering that if we let one of them have it, how many are more going to come to us? And, you know, whether it be $20,000, $16,000, $5,000, you know, as we're going through our budget process right now, you know, to me, sitting here behind the board, in front of my people, every dime, nickel, penny counts towards the budget. And that's just my concern, that would, everybody would become forestry and, everybody gets exempt. And that's just my concern.
Well, it would apply to anyone that is in this
Right.
business.
That's,
I have a question as well. Thank you, Mr. Callen, for that question. If we're talking about doing the exemptions under the law that was passed, do we have to do a 100% exemption, or can we make it less than 100%? You know what I'm saying? Because the information we're getting now is dealing with 100% exemption.
If it's the board's pleasure, I guess you could always change the rate.
Yeah. That's my question. Could we, instead of doing the 100% exemption, could we just change the rate on it? And that would come through the public hearing and discussion.
And if I may add, I believe the rates were already advertised for this year. Is that correct? Proposed rates, I should say.
Yes. Yes, the proposed rates have been advertised. I do not know whether or not we can refer to legal as to whether or not something needs to be done differently, but yes, sir, to answer your question, the rates have been advertised, yes.
Ms. Powell?
I think, Mr. Chair, members of the board, I think the answer is similar to any other taxes. I think that you can advertise a certain rate, but you can't go above it.
It can come down. Okay. Are there any other questions, board members, in regards to this request? If there are no other questions, what is your pleasure on the request as far as a request to amend the ordinance and with the public hearing? What is your pleasure on that?
Chair, I think we maybe want to look at what Mr. Judkins can provide to us about how many other companies are out there.
Okay.
That can be done.
Okay, that can be done. So what, it's not a particular date that they're looking for the public hearing on this. The other ones were for June the 3rd. Okay, so if you could bring that information back to us,
Okay, sure.
it'd be greatly appreciated.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
And Mr. Chairman, at that time, will we not need to know how we're going to address this as a total request for exemption or a different rate?
Yeah, I understand. And I think that will be determined by, if I'm not mistaken, how many would
We have.
we have. If we need to adjust the rate or do the 100%, I think once we get the information from Mr. Judkins and it gets to our financial people, they can kind of advise us the right way to go with it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we should be able to have that information by the meeting on the 20th, which is next Thursday.
Thank you. On the 20th?
No, is that next Thursday?
13th?
I mean, 13th. I'm a week ahead, yes.
Okay.
On the 13th.
Thank you. I was
Thank
like,
you.
okay, we're really going through May here.
I've jumped through budget adoption, so you can tell where I want to be.
All right. Thank you. The next item on the new business is the bay disposal contract and solid waste operations. Is there someone to present on that tonight for the board?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, yes.
Yes.
I wanted to bring this item to the board's attention tonight for discussion. No action is needed at this time, but I wanted to advise the board, and board members here were not on the board at this time, but back in July 2018, the Board of Supervisors did agree to establish an exclusive service area for the collection of municipal solid waste within Surrey County, and to designate Bay Disposal as the firm authorized to provide this service. At that particular time, the board established an ordinance which established the entire Surrey County, excluding the towns, as that exclusive zone for the collection of residential waste. We do have a current contract with Bay Disposal that automatically renewed on July 1, 2020, and the county has the intent to terminate this contract in an effort to renegotiate it prior to July 1st, 2021. If you do this, board members, it will give staff the opportunity to have further dialogue with Bay Disposal and the applicable county staff as to the efficiency and cost effectiveness of solid waste collection and disposal, and also to bring back those updates to the board on the services that are being rendered by the contractor underneath the current contractual obligations. If you recall, I did provide information to you during the budget process as to the cost of solid waste collection here in the county and as to the operations. We do believe that it gives us an opportunity again to take a look at that contract prior to just renewing it, and hope that we can find some efficiencies to save the county some money and to provide adequate service for solid waste collection. Being that at that particular time, I believe the conversation was centered around assistance to businesses. As you all know, the county does pay the tipping fees for the waste that's being disposed of by Bay Disposal, that's being collected at our various businesses in the county. So again, without just changing the contract, we just thought it was a fitting opportunity to bring that back to the board for your review and your consideration as we have that dialogue in May. And we can bring it back to you during your June meeting for consideration of a revised contract.
Thank you, Ms. Rollins. Do we have any questions of Ms. Rollins in regards to the Bay Disposal contract? Ms. Rollins, I do have one question, and
Yes.
maybe not dealing with the contract itself, but the waste disposal in the county. Have we considered at any time, I know we have the different sites in the county, but I do know that also some residents, they do have the individual pickup.
Mm-hmm.
Have we considered that in the county, and could that be more cost efficient to the county as far as the tipping fees and what we pay to Bay Disposal for collection at the main sites? If we could, have we looked at the difference of what it would be if more residents went to the individual pickup at their home?
Yes, sir, and that is a part of the evaluation and discussions that we do plan to have with staff and with Bay Disposal. The information that was provided to you indicated that we probably have about 220 citizens that do contract with Bay Disposal for the pickup of that service. And just a little bit added information, if you remember back during that time, I guess I'm speaking to Mrs. Little as the most veteran member on the board back at that time, that the board agreed to also have Bay Disposal to pay the tipping fee also for the residents. So even though that the residents are paying Bay Disposal themselves directly, we are paying the tipping fees for Bay Disposal to dispose of that at the landfill in Sussex. So this is an evaluation process that we are going through to make a determination. At this particular time, I have not been able to get a good number on the number of businesses that they are currently doing. And one of the things that we want to talk about is during that particular time, we had a set number, but whether or not there have been new businesses that come on, and whether or not the board or whether or not the county really agreed to pay for any new business. So this is just the opportunity for us to really have those specific conversations with Bay Disposal and to hopefully negotiate a more cost-effective contract. And again, to talk about the services. We are out of what we call the green top business, meaning that we only have our roll-off trucks, and that's the main operations that we're doing in the county. They do also pick up some of the green boxes at the Dendron solid waste collection site and also at our school system. So we have to look at those services and see whether or not it would be more cost effective to try to find some ways whereby maybe there's equipment that we have that our solid waste staff could maybe perhaps take over some of those services. So it's just part of that whole evaluation process.
Thank you, Ms. Ron. I do feel like this is definitely needed at this time. Again, dealing with the budget and being cost efficient. I guess this is a question maybe for legal. If we were to make some changes, how could we get, or would it be necessary for us to do a public hearing on that? Because I would want the board to be able to get some public input on whether or not they would be in favor of the individual service or continually taking it to the different sites.
Yeah, I can.
There isn't a legal requirement to have a public hearing. I do not believe on amending the contract. If there was to be an amendment to the ordinance, that would require a public hearing. But there's an ordinance and there's a contract that kind of goes with the ordinance. So if the contract were to be amended, I do not think that would require a public hearing.
Okay. Thank you. All right, Ms. Rollins, we look forward to updates on this. Thank you for bringing this to our attention.
And Mr. Chairman, as they have been worked with the budget at that time, you know, we do collect taxes from our citizens, and we felt like when you collect the taxes, you know, we need to give our citizens some kind of service for the monies that we collect from them, something that is tangible, that they can feel that, you know, they're participating in those tax dollars. And so the decisions were made based on tax collections, but it's still based on service for our citizens.
Indeed, indeed. That's definitely appreciated. But I think it would benefit us if some kind of way we could get input on the citizens from this as far as what will be their desire. If they would prefer to have residential service or continue to take their trash to the different facilities. And I think if we get that input from them, then we can make a decision that will be receptive from the citizens of the county.
Mr.
And
Chairman.
I agree with the part you said about giving that part of for its taxes, because even if they do decide to do the individual service, there's still going to be some type of tipping fee to the companies, a portion that we can still take up as the board.
Well, the way that I understood this is that those who were already at the time paying for their trash to be collected by Bay, or we may have had another company, I'm not sure, that was picking up the trash from individual homes. Everybody in Surrey County is not a participant in that anyway.
Right.
So it just, I mean, we take our own trash to the dump site. So I don't understand what we are saying. We're not, I wasn't thinking we're saying we're going to pick up trash from every household, or
No,
we aren't doing that now.
No, I'm not suggesting that we do that, but we may have more citizens. We do have some. We got 220, according to Ms. Rollins, that's already doing that, and you may have more that would desire that service. That's why I said we get some feedback from the public, then we'll know which way to go as a board. You know, giving somebody the option is, I think, is always best than saying this is how we're going to do it. If we can make the individual service available, and that's what the public wants, then I think we need to investigate and see if that's what they want.
Oh, I go along with the investigation. Anytime we can find a way to cut costs, I have no problem without cutting service.
Amen.
And those citizens who were having their trash picked up at home, they paid for themselves. They paid that. The tipping fee is the only fee that the county was paying.
Indeed.
Okay.
So we look forward to the report back from our county administrator on the Bay disposal contract with solid waste operations.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
May I ask just one question for clarity purposes, please?
Yes.
Okay, so the feedback that you desire that we get back from the citizens at large is whether or not they would like to continue having the county having an exclusive agreement with Bay Disposal to pick up their green box trash. Is that correct? You just want some feedback as to whether or not they are satisfied with the service and whether or not they want to continue having that service by Bay Disposal. Is that the feedback we're looking for?
Yes. And is it any way that we could see, because maybe a lot of citizens, especially maybe in the towns, don't realize that service is available. Is there any way we can get that information to the people in the town?
Absolutely, sir. And I was going to add that as a caveat as well is, you know, we have 220, not sure where that information may be available. I don't know whether or not Bay Disposal themselves actually advertise that to the citizens in Surrey, but we can certainly make sure that that information is available on our end. if the board elects to keep that route, to let them know that the service is available and for them to contact Bay Disposal to sign up for that service. And basically what that does is keeps citizens, those especially who may be elderly, from having to come to one of the 4 collection sites in the county. And it cuts down on the amount of waste that the attendants may have to take to a certain degree.
That was my main point. You wrapped it up very well. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I know it's late in the game, Ms. Rollins, but can we maybe in the future, is this like a one-year contract?
It was a 1-year contract that was renewable for a certain number of years, and I'm not exactly sure how many years, Mr. Calhoun, but it was a one-year contract renewable for X number of years. And if I'm thinking it was 3 years.
Is it possible we could go out and get bids from other, other disposal companies?
It is possible.
I mean, that's, you know, I mean, that's.
I think we can make that a part of the review that staff is going to give us. Competition is always good for business. I don't have a problem with that. And we'll pick what the best service we get for the least amount of money. Ms. Powell?
Oh.
If we can't do it legally, we can't.
If I'd have to review the contract, but if I recall correctly, when this was drafted, an RFP was put out, and Bay Disposal was, I believe, at the time, the company with the best proposal. And I believe the contract does say that they are the exclusive company for this county for the term of the contract, which I believe was 4 year initially, and it was either, and it can be renewed for 3 or 4 times. So it could have been a 4 or 5 year contract total. But so I'm not sure right now, based on the contract, if we can actually look for alternative companies to provide the same service.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
We look forward to the report. We look forward to the report from staff. Thank you very much, board members, for the discussion on this item. We do move now into unfinished business. And the first item on the list for unfinished business is the presentation of a plaque and the official resolution in honor of Mr. Kenneth Holmes. We do know that Mr. Holmes served the county of Surrey faithfully on this board, and he served with distinction. And he served the longest with Mrs. Little. We have been in touch with Mr. Holmes' daughter on today, and they were attempting to have a family member here, but they're out of town now, so they couldn't get in, and trying to get someone close to here to be able to receive the presentation that we have for Mr. Holmes. But since no one is here, we do still want to go forward with the presentation of the plaque and the official resolution. And I'm going to ask Mrs. Little, since she served the longest with her, I know it would be an honor. We did give a resolution during the virtual meeting, but I know it would be an honor unto her, and I think we will be doing ourselves as a board justice by honoring Mr. Holmes once again with the plaque, and we will assure that the family will get the plaque, but we want to do the official presentation on the night. So I'm going to ask Ms. Little if she would come at this time with the resolution and to display the plaque and maybe read what's on the plaque for us.
Okay. Board members and citizens, you want me to read the resolution?
Yes, ma'am. I can read the we do need to
All right.
honor him properly.
Okay, thank you. Resolution 2021-03. Can you hear me?
Yes.
A resolution to honor the memory of Kenneth R. Holmes Sr., Causley District Representative for the Surrey County Board of Supervisors. Whereas the members of this Board of Supervisors were greatly saddened to learn of the illness and then passing of Kenneth R. Holmes Sr., an exemplary public servant and human being. And whereas Kenneth Holmes served as a member of the Board of Supervisors for 9 years, from 2012 to 2021, until his illness prevented him from serving. And whereas the Surrey County Board of Supervisors do hereby state that Surrey County is appreciative of his dedicated service, and we are thankful to have known him and called him my brother and friend, and honored that he served with us. And whereas during this illustrious tenure, Mr. Holmes served as the Board of Supervisors representative on the Social Services Board, the Improvement Association, and the Building and Grounds Committee. And whereas Kenneth Holmes did not limit his efforts to the Board of Supervisors, he also worked tirelessly and enthusiastically to improve his county, successfully working in the Surrey County Historical Society and the Surrey County African American Heritage Society. Whereas Mr. Holmes was the epitome of charm, wit, and hospitality, his outgoing personality, sense of humor, infectious laugh, and the spirit of true dedication to public service made him a beloved and respected figure throughout Surrey County. And whereas Mr. Holmes' passing leaves a void that will be difficult to fill, now therefore be it resolved by the Surrey County Board of Supervisors that we honor the memory of Mr. Kenneth Holmes, former member of the Causley District of the Surrey County Board of Supervisors, and express our condolences to the Holmes family on his passing. Be it further resolved that an appropriate copy of this resolution be presented to the Holmes family on behalf of the Surrey County Board of Supervisors in honor of Mr. Kenneth R. Holmes, Sr., attested to by Melissa D. Rawlings, County Administrator, Surrey County, Virginia. And that's a beautiful resolution, and it certainly sums up the life of Mr. Holmes with the Board of Supervisors and his county, and we miss him. I'm glad that I know we all miss him. And I'll just turn this around so everyone can see before I read it. County of Surrey, Virginia, with the county seal, 1652, and the Honorable Kenneth R. Holmes, Sr., with grateful recognition of his years of dedicated service on the Board of Supervisors and his devotion and commitment to the County of Surrey, Virginia. Time will never erase the work you have accomplished here and the lives you have positively affected. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and board members.
Thank you, Ms. Little. At this time, I'm going to call for a brief moment of silence in the honor and the memory of our former board member, Mr. Kenneth Holmes. Thank you. Next item on our agenda for unfinished business is a table item from our meeting of last month, a decision on the Cavalier Solar Project. We are so happy to have board member Mr. Drury with us at this time. Do we have anyone from Cavalier Solar? I know Mr. Brown is working hard. Presentation from Cavalier Solar.
Mr. Ben Saunders, Chairman Elliott,
Thank you,
is
Mr. Saunders.
online.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay, sorry, I was having some technical difficulties. Yes, this is Ben Saunders from Cavalier Solar.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
While Mr. Saunders is waiting to speak, I just want to just give a brief overview. This item, of course, was tabled from the Board of Supervisors meeting on April 1st, 2021.
Yes.
And Ms. Powell, legal counsel, is here to walk the board through the recommended actions for this evening. I believe Mr. Saunders is on to be able to answer any questions or to be able to give any further updates that the board may desire. So it could be that Mr. Saunders is waiting from instructions from the board as to whether or not you all provide any additional information or updates, or whether or not there's discussion from the board on this matter.
Thank you, Ms. Rollins. Board members, we do have before us five different items for decision on tonight. The first being the comprehensive plan, the map amendment number 2021-01, the rezoning application number 2021-01, the conditional use permit number 2021, substantially in accord determination, and the approval of the siting agreement. Do we have any questions of, Mr. Calhoun, you have a statement in regards to this project?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm an employee of Dominion, and I have a potential conflict. For that reason, I will abstain, from participation of this discussion.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, making all that big Dominion money. Thank you, sir. Are there any questions from board members on these 5 items? And Ms. Powell, would you like to elaborate on any of them at this time?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. So, as I'm sure the board recalls, Cavalier Solar submitted an application to submit a solar farm here in the county. In order to do that, they submitted an application for the comp plan amendment, rezoning, conditional use permit, and it's substantially in accord as required by the county code. The property is the applicant is asking for the property to be rezoned because right now the property is, I believe it's zoned as agricultural, and they want to rezone it to light industrial M1. We had the public hearing last month. There were some concerns, mainly with the conditional use permit, because the concerns was that the conditions in the permit did not adequately address the impacts that the project may have in the county, and so the applicant has since revised those conditions, and so there are 16 conditions that were provided to the board in the packet, and which are also online. The rest of the application has remained in the same, the map amendment, the rezoning application, those proffers, those things have not changed. I will say, and Ben Saunders is on the line, and so he'll be able to explain this a little bit more to the board, but it's my understanding that the project has been reduced just a little bit, but that reduction does not impact any of the preservation areas or the open space or any of that, anything. They're just reducing some of the property, but the actual project itself will not be impacted. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. I will say that the chair is right, that those are the 5 things that we agree on that need to be voted on. Each one should be voted on separately, and the first 4 should be taken first, and if there is approval of the items 1 through 4, then I think the board can then vote on the siting agreement. But I'm happy to answer any additional questions that the board may have as it relates to the project.
Thank you, Ms. Powell. Board members, do you have any additional questions for Ms. Powell or Mr. Saunders before we take action?
Mr. Chair, Mike Drury.
Yes, Mr. Drury.
Could someone, staff, Mr. Saunders or someone, go over what has changed since the last board meeting and the public hearing as far as conditions?
Yes, the question Ms. Powell just stated was 16 different conditions. If she or Mr. Saunders could give us that update.
Yeah, I can provide that if you'd like.
Thank you, sir, please.
Yeah, so So we changed condition 3 and condition 4 to address the landscaping, the questions about the landscaping, and making sure that the fence was behind all landscaping, and that there could only be vegetation in the first 100 foot of the buffer. We clarified condition 5, which involved internal parcel boundaries to the project. So we just made that a little bit more clear. And then we added in on condition 6, delivery time restrictions for school bus hours and rush hour. And then I believe on 15 and 16, we addressed some of the questions about the conservation items in terms of not being able to, once the project is complete, we can't touch any of the conserved areas, and covering those items. And those were the main changes. Sorry, in addition to clarifying exact setbacks for certain areas, which coincided with a change to the conceptual site plan to address that issue.
Mr. Chair, I've got one more question,
Yes, sir.
and I may have missed it because I was scrolling through the conditions. Was that change in anything about VDOT in the roadways, about usage? Or did you speak about that?
I think the only thing that changed with that was the hours for delivery restrictions. But we already had, again, I think at least 2 or 3 VDOT related conditions in there.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, if I may just explain, it's my understanding that there was language added, I thought, about avoiding peak traffic hours and hours of school bus transportation. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that condition,
Number 6.
Number 6.
yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Yes, it's in here, condition number 6. Thank you, Mr. Drury. Are there any other questions from board members? If there be no other questions, what will be the pleasure of the board on the first item, the comprehensive plan map amendment number 2021-01?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, Mike Drury, if I may make a statement before I make a motion.
Yes, sir.
Anytime there's change, especially in a rural community, whether it's a stoplight at the courthouse or something like this, there's pros and cons, and I've talked to citizens, and it's about 50-50 in the community. I've gone out and visited the site several times and talked to citizens at the site and some of the owners that are going to lease the site, and will have to say that I've been pleased that the landowners and of the project have been open to discussion about this project, have been sensitive to the neighbors' concerns, because I certainly understand this. When projects come in such as this, there's some people that gain and there's some people that lose. But I am pleased that every time I brought up a concern, Cavalier Solar has responded. In this last time, I can't remember, I had over a dozen concerns, and all of them have been addressed since the last meeting. And I'm going to make a motion to approve this. Not sure what the other board members will do, but because I can think that, again, what I've seen is Cavalier has been responsive, and I don't expect this after, if we do have an approval, that this concerns and responsiveness will end. I would anticipate that if citizens have concern, especially during construction, that they will contact your board member, and we can get in touch with the appropriate people to respond. I feel much better about this project than I do the one up near Claremont at this time. In talking to the landowner out there, this is a major concern of mine, because I was once a full-time farmer here in Surrey County, and remember the family farms here, and the number of kids, and that's disappearing. Our population is disappearing. Our school student population is disappearing. Our family farms are disappearing. In fact, the other day I looked at the U.S. Census of 2012 to 2017. They haven't updated it. And we lost 13% of the farming operations in Surrey. I think it's higher when it talks about family farms. I once was there too and had to diversify. I don't know if it was a bad thing, going out getting some more education. I wanted to stay here in Surrey and farm the rest of my life. The Seward family out there is in the same predicament. While they acknowledge they're better off than most, they are looking for a way to continue to operate and keep their two sons there. So there is a balance of private property rights versus neighbors' property rights, and there has to be a balance there. So this is growing a crop of solar. It will help keep that farm family stable, and wish I had had this opportunity myself. I don't think we want to see it all over Surrey County, and it's something for the board to anticipate in the future as where it should be and so forth. And thank y'all for letting me indulge that, because I took a lot of time of going out there and talking to the landowners and talking to residents, the ones that at least contacted me and had concerns. And again, and when I went back, those concerns had been resolved. Not everybody, because not everybody contacted me, but certainly the ones that did. So with that said, I'm going to make the first motion. I make a motion to approve the comprehensive plan amendment number 2021. I move to approve the comprehensive plan map amendment for the Cavalier Solar LLC, proposed 180 megawatt photovoltaic as described in 2021-01. And I apologize for the stumbling. It's my first time making motion with a mask on.
We thank you, Mr. Drury, for your comments as well as the motion. We do have a motion on the floor in regards to the Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment 2021-01. Can we get a second on the motion?
Second.
It has been properly moved and second. All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. The next item before us is the rezoning application number 2021-01. What would be the pleasure on the board? Can we get a motion on this item number 2?
Mr. Chair, Mike Drury, I so move to approve the Cavalier Solar LLC's proposed 180 megawatt photovoltaic as described in 2021-01, and to rezone the parcels provided in the application and from AR to M1 in the accompanying voluntary proffers.
We have a motion. Could we get a second?
Second.
It has been properly moved and second. All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. The next item is the conditional use permit, number 2021-01.
Mr. Chair, Mike Drury again, and you will see for the public's acknowledgement too that I'm doing the motion, and Ms. Little is seconding the motion because it touches both of our districts, and we've had conversations, and Ms. Little, don't let me overspeak, but she's done her homework as well, and from talking to the Soil Conservation Services, and thank you for looking into what you've looked into as well on this. We both have concerns, but we feel like, I can say it, that these concerns have been addressed. I move to approve Cavalier Solar LLC's proposed 180 megawatt photovoltaic as described in 2021-01 and find that the conditions sufficiently mitigate adverse impacts associated with the project with the conditions that's outlined in the conditional use permit.
We have a motion. Could we get a second?
Second.
It has been properly moved and second. All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. The next item is the substantially and accord determination. Could we get a motion on this item?
Mr. Chair, Mike Drury, I move that the board find that Cavalier Solar's LLC proposed 180 megawatt photovoltaic solar energy facility as described in the 2232 review application is substantially in accord with the Surrey Comprehensive Plan.
Have a motion. Could we have a second?
Second.
It has been properly moved and second. All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. And before we do the last motion, I just want to ditto what Mr. Drury has stated. And listening to the public hearing that we had on this, we had a lot of our citizens in favor of this. And as he has stated, it's about 50% that was for and 50% against. And Cavalier Solar, they did address all of the issues that we had. So at this time, could we get our last motion, item number 5, the approval of the siting agreement?
Mr. Chair, Mike Drury, and just one comment is to, I probably failed to state that in my research and going out there and talking to people, I certainly kept in touch and told the other board members I was doing that. I don't know that we wanted all board members knocking on doors, but I certainly kept in touch with all the board members and got their approval for what was going on. Again, I hope and continue that Cavalier Solar will still address issues that as they come up, because there's some, I'm sure, that will come up during construction, and I'm sure that they will address them. But citizens, again, be in touch with us. I move that the board approve the siting agreement between Cavalier Solar LLC and the county as it relates to Cavalier Solar's proposed 180 megawatt photovoltaic solar energy facility.
Have a motion, could we get a second?
Second.
It has been properly moved and second. All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye.
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 Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, board members. We move to now the third item in our unfinished business. It is the Surrey Marketplace LLC performance agreement. And that is in our packet.
Page 367.
367. Let me move.
Mr. Chairman, while you're looking,
Yes, Ms. Rollins.
yes, this is an item, of course, that has been on the board's agenda in the previous meeting. There were some questions that board members had, and those questions have been answered. Mr. Jabari is on the call, Economic Development Director, in the event that the board has any questions.
Are there any questions from the board members in regards to our Surrey Marketplace LLC performance agreement?
Mr. Chair, I've got, reviewing the information presented to us, I just have a couple issues. On page 368, we have the project budget worksheet, and it indicates the funding, the OBC grant of $300,000, other sources of $300,000, and in-kind support. When kind of looking at specifically the OBC Healthcare Foundation as well as other resources columns, and then going into his exhibits A for the, excuse me, let me open this up, funding 1 year, and then, bear with me, sorry, on page 372, the funding year 2, there seems to be some discrepancies of who's paying for what. For example, the front door and windows that were to be replaced in funding 1 year. Currently, when I drove by that building this evening, the window has not been replaced yet, and it should have been replaced in November 1, 2020 through December 16 of 2020. I think that I would like to see a revised OBC worksheet, project budget worksheet presented to us because this is signed, and Ms. Rollins, maybe you can help me. Is that David's signature?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And
Back in November 2020.
Which page are you on, Ms. Kelly?
I'm looking at page 368.
68. Okay. Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yes. May I provide some assistance to Mr. Calhoun in the answering of his question?
Yes, please.
Okay. I don't have it in front of me because I'm having a little technical glitches, but the worksheet, Mr. Calhoun, that you see before you, you're correct that it was dated back in November. This is I want to say a fluid document in that OBC does expect that the timeline may eventually change. Obviously, when you have situations whereby I know in this particular case where some permittings had to be granted, and if you don't get those permits in the timeline in which you need to get them, then obviously the timeline is going to change. The budget spreadsheet that was done from OBC, I sort of kind of understand the dynamics in which those worksheets are done. I think what may be more beneficial for the board to have is just maybe a updated timeline altogether, and maybe that would help to kind of know exactly when things are supposed to occur. But I don't think, at least with OBC, that there's a revision of the actual budget, more so than perhaps we can provide a revision of the timeline, if that would be helpful.
Absolutely. I'm just concerned that I thought it was, we were hoping to get the market open in the March, April timeframe of this year.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, may I ask Mr. Jobbery, who's on call, to perhaps provide some additional information that would assist Mr. Calhoun also with his inquiry as to the timeline?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman Elliott and Board. Per Surrey Marketplace LLC, the updated timeline is as follows. Electrical engineering / architecture is currently being done. HVAC upgrades will be in the month of June and July. Deli upgrades is to be completed in the months of July and August. And the equipment installation and projected grand opening will be around August or September of 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Jobber. I think did it help, Mr. Calhoun?
It does. I just, I presume that the county and staff is getting updates. Looking at what's before me in the agenda, it doesn't reflect any changes. And I just wanted to address that, number one, and just see how the progress is going. And then I do have one other question. In our last meeting, I think Mr. Drury, and he can elaborate more on this. I'm probably going to step on his toes, so I apologize, but have we resolved the issue or given it any more thought on if he defaults with our portion of the grant and how we may hopefully get that money back? Is that still an issue on the table?
I don't believe that's the issue on the table. I think we've gotten that satisfied with legal in the agreement. I think we looked at the agreement. Mr. Drury can speak on it if he would like, but
I'll be glad to.
Yes, sir.
And I have to say thanks to staff, to Mr. Harrison and Mr. Jabri for putting up with me a little bit on this issue. That yes, it's been resolved. The $300,000 grant from the county will be for the equipment inside the store that the county will own and lease to them. And after 5 years, if the store is still in operation, it will be gifted to the store owner. So we are going to own the equipment, and that's satisfied. I wanted to see a lien against the property, a lien against equipment. This is doing the same thing as a lien against the equipment. So I'm very satisfied, and I thank Mr. Harrison and Jabri and staff and Mr. White for working through that. So I'm satisfied with it. I'll just make one more comment, is that the timeline in slipping, I certainly understand it. We all have to understand that this performance agreement, that Mr. White is proceeding without any agreement in place. I wouldn't, but I'm glad he is. And this still has to be approved by the EDA, so a slippage on timetable for protecting the county is okay with me. I know people want to see it, but it's better to get it done right. some thanks. But I'm satisfied with my questions from last time.
Thank you, Mr. Drury. Board members, we have before us a request that the Surrey County Board of Supervisors approve the performance agreement between the county, the EDA, and the Surrey Marketplace, LLC. What is the pleasure of the board at this time? Do we get a motion on this?
Mr. Chair, I will make that motion to approve the Surrey Marketplace LLC performance agreement, and I guess to send it on to the EDA for their consideration.
We have a motion from Mr. Drury. Can we get a second?
Second the motion.
It has been properly moved and second. All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, board members. We move now into presentations. First will be a presentation to the board from Ms. Carol Swindell in reference to Surrey County Financial Quarterly Report.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good
I'm
evening.
going to ask the same question. Everybody can hear me fine, hopefully. Tonight, I'm presenting the third quarter financial report for fiscal year 2020-21. Sorry, I was just having some feedback. So this report summarizes the county's overall financial position for 2021 through March 31st of 2021. And overall expenditures and revenue appear to be on target, except for areas noted in the report. The budgets have been adjusted to reflect carryovers of unspent grant money from 2020, and as well any adjustments of revenue that are related to that. As you may recall, the county staff held the Board of Supervisors held a work session with county staff on February 4th, where we went over in great detail the mid-year budget review, as well as an updated general fund fiscal forecast at that time. And that was as part of our beginning of the budget process. Overall, with 75% of the year complete, general fund revenues are at 101% of projections, so we expect to obviously end the year over budget for revenues, which is good. Expenditures overall are at 53%. Looking at the revenue side, the top 5 revenues for the county comprise about 93% of total general fund revenues. So by looking at those revenue sources, you get an overall very good picture of the county's overall revenue situation. As you are aware, much of the county's revenue is derived from property taxes, and those taxes are due once a year on December 5th. So most of the county's local revenue comes in during a relatively short window of time between November and December. So by now, we've gotten the vast majority of the property tax revenue in, and the treasurer is continuing to collect on any past due tax receipts related to real estate and personal property. The primary reason that revenues are exceeding projections is that the Public Service Corporation assessments for this fiscal year came in over what had been originally projected by the state. In addition, our real estate tax revenue is slightly over budget, and we expect personal property taxes to come in either at or slightly above the budget target. The county receives reimbursement from the state for the state share of constitutional officers, and we have received 62% of that revenue so far. However, we'll be doing at the end of the year an accrual to recognize the last 2 months of the year, which will not be paid until after June 30th. The PPTRA is the Personal Property Tax Relief Act. The state pays the county $677,907 a year, and that amount is fixed. It will never go up. And so each year, as part of the budget, county staff asked the board to make an adjustment to the Personal Property Tax Relief Act percentage, so that after that credit is applied to the bills, we hope to net approximately what we are going to get from the state. We've received 95% of that revenue, and we will get 100% of it by the end of the year. On page 2 of the report, there's information about the expenditures. Operating costs are generally on target for the third quarter of the fiscal year, and the target is 75%. Most of the departments are under that target. General administration is slightly over, and the reason for that is due to personnel changes that were made during the year. Public works expenditures, which has been an area that is perennially under budget, is slightly over the 75% target, primarily due to unbudgeted repair and maintenance costs. The transfers out to other funds is below budget only because for many of the funds, we don't actually make the transfer until the end of the year, until we know exactly how much money is going to be needed from the general fund. We do transfer monthly amounts to the schools and to social services in order to provide them cash flow to operate their budgets. And I won't go into detail, but included in the report is department by department information regarding the expenditures as of the third quarter. And with that, I will conclude my presentation. Detail, but included in the report is department by department information. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take those at this time.
Do we have any questions for Ms. Swindell? If there be no questions, we thank you for a thorough report, Ms. Swindell, on the financial status of the county at this time. Thank you so very much. The next item we have on presentations is from District 19, Community Service Board presentation from Ms. Jennifer Tunstall. Talk to me, Ms. Tunstall.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Can you hear me now?
Yes, okay, thank you.
All right.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
I would like to thank the board for allowing me this opportunity to give a presentation tonight. I wanted to give an overview of District 19 Community Services Board. I have a slideshow, and you have been given the slides in front of you. So District 19 is a multi-jurisdictional community based organization. Our mission is to improve the quality and productivity of the lives of individuals who experience or who are at risk of experiencing mental health and or substance use disorders. We are licensed by the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services, and we do cover 9 localities. So that includes the cities of Colonial Heights, Emporia, Hopewell, Petersburg, and the counties of Dinwiddie, Greensville, Prince George, Surrey, and Sussex. We have a voluntary board of directors that provides oversight to District 19. And as you can see, this shows the list of individuals that serve on our board, and currently for our Surrey County representative is Ms. Frances Randolph. District 19 offers mental health, intellectual developmental disability, and substance use disorder services. We also offer emergency services for people in crisis, early intervention services for young children, and prevention services to reduce risk and promote wellness. In FY20, we provided direct services to 4,722 individuals. This slide just shows you a list of our current adult services that we provide. It includes mental health case management, psychosocial rehabilitation, substance use services, our work program, psychiatric and nursing services, transitional living and supportive housing, intellectual and developmental disability services, and our PACT program, which is Program for Assertive Community Treatment. Our child and adolescent services include school-based therapy, juvenile corrections, prevention, mental health case management, intellectual and developmental disability case management, court services, and intervention. Our community integration and crisis services includes our emergency services, which is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, same-day access, crisis intervention teams, crisis assessment centers, and mental health outpatient therapy. We have created a new division for FY21 where we included adult and children developmental disability case management and prevention into one disability. This next slide just gives you a breakdown of individuals served in FY20, and it breaks them down by disability. So it's divided by mental health, substance use, intellectual and developmental disability, and emergency services. This next slide breaks down the number of individuals served in FY20 by locality. So taking from that slide, you'll see this next slide is a breakdown of all individuals that were residents of Surrey County that received services through District 19 in FY20. And this is broken down by mental health, and you can see it's divided by month. And you will be able to see the individual served for mental health and developmental disability services that is separated by children and adults. The next slide shows you a breakdown of the services provided to individuals residing in Surrey County that were provided with substance use disorder services. And then lastly, the emergency and ancillary services. And this slide just shows you the total for FY20 that received services from District 19, those individuals that were residents in Surrey County. District 19 receives its funding through a combination of federal, state, and local entities. We do serve a high volume of individuals who are uninsured, but the most of our revenue comes from Medicaid, but also from other resources. We did begin accepting commercial insurance in February of 2019. And this slide just shows you a breakdown of where our funding comes from. You'll see that local government, this is the total for combination of all 9 localities. And then again, our largest revenue comes from Medicaid. As far as funding, there is language in the Code of Virginia where there's an indication for a local match from our localities that District 19 provides services for. The local funding request to our 9 localities for FY22 was local funding request. Level funding. Due to CARES Act funding and other funding streams, due to the pandemic, it has been difficult to determine the amount of funding that will be received in the next fiscal year. So we did ask the localities for level funding, meaning the amount that we requested in the last fiscal year. I do want to note that Surrey County has decreased the amount of funding support to District 19 in the last few years. The amount requested is $70,120. In FY21, currently, we are awarded $62,748. And in FY20, we were allotted $66,051. So the amount of funding has decreased. And then in the current budget for FY22, from what information I've been provided, again, the local funding from Surrey to District 19 is proposed for $62,748. So I'm just going to advocate for that $70,120 for the budget for FY22 to provide the support to District 19, and those requests have already been sent separately. I do want to review some new legislation that impacts all localities in the state of Virginia, and that's called the Marcus Alert. The Marcus Alert is a mental health awareness, response, and community understanding services alert system. So it's abbreviated Marcus Alert. This act is named for Marcus David Peters, who was shot and killed by Richmond police in 2018 in the midst of a behavioral health crisis. The Marcus Alert is a series of protocols aimed to divert to behavioral health system or respond with specialized law enforcement response, to include protocols to divert from 911 to a crisis call center, MOUs for law enforcement backup to a crisis response, and to implement minimum standards and best practice for law enforcement responses. So what is the Marcus Alert seeking to change or implement? It's to reform governmental responses to Virginians in a behavioral health crisis. Purpose is to implement a set of protocols, procedures, and response teams to ensure that Virginia provides a behavioral health response and no force first response to behavioral health crises. The overall goals of Marcus Alert and the build out of the crisis system in Virginia is to provide crisis services in a comprehensive crisis system framework with essential elements based on national best practice models. It's to support the rights of all Virginians, regardless of area of residence, race or ethnicity, to access to behavioral care safely and in a timely fashion, and in the least restrictive environment. Is to decrease Virginia's reliance on law enforcement as the first response to behavioral health crisis, and to ensure that Virginians with disabilities receive appropriate accommodations to include a safe, compassionate, trauma approach response when law enforcement is involved during a behavioral health crisis. The timeline for Marcus Alert implementation is to start with a plan for July 1st, 2021. And this plan will include requirements for protocol development and clarifications on what the protocols will be, whether it'll be a standard versus individualized process for review and approval. 2021, 5 initial areas will be covered by all components of Marcus Alert. And I'll note that District 19 is not one of the first 5 areas to be slated to implement Marcus Alert. Richmond Behavioral Health Authority is the Region 4 Community Services Board that is in that first 5 areas to be covered by all components of Marcus Alert by December 1st. By July 1st, 2022, all localities should be covered by Marcus Alert protocols, and then 5 more areas should be covered by all of the components to include response teams. So what is District 19 doing to prepare for Marcus Alert? We're taking steps towards readiness. We're researching similar geographic areas and jurisdictional models, and looking at similar initiatives in place. We did seek representation on state groups to stay engaged and attend forums. And District 19 was not selected as a representative on the state group, but we do attend Marcus Alert listening sessions, and we participate in all of the regional groups. We do plan to form a local group to include District 19 localities after we get the state requirements. This group will be built on the current CIT stakeholders group that currently meets every quarter. We will also invite additional city and county officials, community partners, and others to join once the guidelines are received. We'll focus first year on protocols for diversion, protocols to serve as a backup for regional mobile crisis, and changes to police presentation when responding. These protocols and processes will be developed once the group is formed. During the first year, we'll determine a plan for team coverage, mobile crisis versus co-responders or community response, and then we'll submit a plan for approval and implementation by July 1st, 2022. To see more information, you can go to the Crisis Now model at crisisnow.com. There's also coordinated responses between state, regional, and local work called Intercept 0 and Intercept 1, which is the sequential intercept model, and that's through SAMHSA. You can also look that up online at samhsa.com to find out about the intercept model. Also increasing diversion to the behavioral health system for individuals in crisis, and to decrease police involvement in behavioral health and developmental disability crisis. We want to improve safety and better outcomes for individuals experiencing a behavioral health crisis at risk of law enforcement involvement. And it will be a health-centered approach for individuals in crisis, whether this will be mobile crisis, community care, or law enforcement responses. Again, this is still in the planning stages. There are collaborative efforts across the state. Some of law enforcement have reached out to us, and we are sharing information as quickly as I get it. This is going to be a huge undertaking for the entire system and the entire state of Virginia. District 19 has a website at d19csb.com. Our Surrey clinic is in the same building as Surrey Health Department. Our main office is at Bank Street location in Petersburg, and we have 7 clinics around our localities. Thank you for the opportunity to go over the services and information about District 19, and I'll be happy to take any questions if I can hear them.
We certainly want to thank you, Ms. Tunstall, for your thorough presentation and the great job that you do, and that you and your fellow co-laborers in District 19, being former law enforcement, I know how important it is, the job that you do. So we definitely want to thank you for the update that you have given us in regards to District 19 here in Surrey County. Are there any other comments or questions for Ms. Tunstall at this time from the board? Thank you, Ms. Tunstall, for the thorough presentation. The next item in presentations will be from our economic development update from Mr. Jabri. He's giving us a verbal report. I'm hoping he has some great news for the County of Surrey. Mr. Jabri.
Mr. Elliott?
Yes.
I apologize. Mr. Glenn Brooks is up next to give the VDOT quarterly report. May we ask Mr. Glenn Brooks to give that report before Mr. Jabri, please?
We can. I do see that. Did he give his presentation in the other portion?
Hello.
No, he did not give the routine quarterly transportation update to the board.
Okay. Yeah, we can make the adjustment, no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear me? This is Glenn Brooks.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Great. I'll try and be brief. Rossi has left me a list for his typical quarterly report. This goes through January to March 31st this year. And just to highlight a few of what accomplishments VDOT has been doing this year. They completed essentially 240 work orders. These are items that have been called to VDOT's attention for maintenance issues, either on the hotline or through someone at the county making a call to VDOT. A few of the highlighted items are they ditched over 11 miles, including routes 603, 618, and 626. It did unpaved road grading for 2 centerline miles, unpaved shoulder machining and grading for 3.2 shoulder miles, mowed 477 acres, and did machine patching using plant mix for 21 tons of asphalt. Also, the residency has been doing latex overlay on some of the roads in Surrey. You might have noticed there was Route 10 from Bacon's Castle Trail to Hog Island Road, Route 31 from the Sussex County line to Carsley Road, and Route 31 from Faison Street to Hollybush Road. Also on Route 40 from Carsley Road to Salisbury, and on Route 40 from Sussex to Otter Dam Swamp Bridge. Coming up in this summer, starting in July, we're going to do asphalt plant mix. That's going to start on Route 10, about 2 miles east of Swans Point Road to Hollybush Road, and on Route 10 from Salisbury Road to Martin Luther King Highway. That's basically the quarterly update. We have a couple upcoming projects that are in the planning stages currently. Those are smart scale projects in the intersection of Colonial Trail East and Route 617, Bacon's Castle, White Marsh. And also Route 20, Smart 20 project, a Route 31 shoulder widening for bicycle accommodation. And both of those have been in preliminary engineering. That's the quarterly update. So if you have any questions, I can relay them to Rossi or have someone get back to you if I don't know the answer. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Brooks?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
Yes, may I ask Mr. Brooks a question, please?
you may.
Yes, Mr. Brooks, we received an inquiry as to the ferry schedule resuming to normal now that the warmer weathers have picked up. Can you give us any information as to what the ferry schedule is and whether or not it's resumed back to normal service?
Sorry, I don't have that on hand, but I can get it tomorrow and send it out.
Thank you, sir. The inquiries we received was regarding the traffic that is backed up during peak hours. So we just wanted to see whether or not there was any plan changes or anything that was attributed to the backup in the ferry traffic. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm not aware of anything at the moment, but I'll find out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Mr. Brooks at this time? If there be none, thank you, Mr. Brooks, for your quarterly report.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would the next item be the LGIP investment letter, Ms. Rollins?
Mr. Jabri?
I think we go back to Mr.
I'm gonna go back to Mr. Job. I'm just trying to see where we go. Okay. Mr. Jabri, you're up, sir.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Chairman Dr. Elliott, board members, Ms. Rollins, and others joined with us virtually today. Thank you for letting me speak this evening. I wanted to thank the board for approving the Tourism Week and Business Appreciation Month proclamation. This shows that Surrey County is dedicated to fostering economic development in our county, which leads to an improvement in quality of life for our citizens. I wanted to thank the board for passing those. Tonight, I will give a quick economic development report. Economic development is currently working with the Virginia Economic Development Partnership in Virginia's Gateway region on an industrial prospect. More to come on that. Economic development has assisted the Surrey Marketplace LLC in applying to the Virginia Food Access Investment Fund grant through the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. This is a newly created program that focuses on equity and justice in our local food systems by investing in new or expanded food retailers that addresses food access issues in the Commonwealth. The grant did not require a match from the locality and required that the applicant be the actual private company. We will be awaiting the response from the state for further guidance on their decision. Our very first farmers market for the 2021 season is tomorrow, starting from 4 to 7 p.m. We have a total of 13 vendors. This Friday, we'll start our very first farmers market event schedule for May through October, which will be the first Friday of the month will be our concert series. Second Fridays of the month will be our arts and craft night. Third Friday of the month will be food truck night. And fourth Fridays of the month will be our movie night. We have successfully secured the use of the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which is known as SNAP. This will assist our citizens in need of fresh local fruits and vegetables. The farmers market's mission is to provide an opportunity for local farmers, food producers, and artists to sell their local products directly to the consumer in a clean, friendly, and community-oriented environment. I would like to thank Ms. LaSonia White, Farmers Market Manager, Mr. Stanley Jones from Parks and Rec, and Ms. Pat Bernhausen from Tourism for all their assistance. I'll go over now our PGCE rule ban report. PGC has passed a total of 2,441 homes. This is an increase of 362 homes from the previous month. They have 77 pending applications with 684 homes connected and 447 poles replaced, while they extended 15 miles of fiber. Rule ban currently has 40 new applications for the month of April. We have created a business retention expansion program where economic development alongside workforce development proactively connects with existing businesses to understand and respond to their needs. We will utilize this data and information as a basis for identifying, designing, and implementing strategies that can help strengthen the existing business and industry within our county. And lastly, a reminder that our virtual business roundtable will be held this Tuesday, May 11th at 12 p.m. We have secured Ms. Ellen Templeton from the Small Business Development Center of Longwood to discuss what the Small Business Development Center has to offer for small businesses within our county. We encourage businesses of any size to attend to better understand our business needs and wants. Please visit our economic development website for instructions on how to join. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jarbri, for the economic development update. Could you please, sir, give us the schedule again for the different Fridays throughout the month? I know you said the first one was for concerts. What was the other events for our farmers market? Could you give that again, please? Are you still with us? Did anybody else get those different? I know that the first Friday was concert, and the last one was, the fourth Friday was movies.
The second one was arts and crafts.
Third one was food truck?
And third one was food truck.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, Chairman, I couldn't hear you.
That's fine. We have the information now. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the update from the economic development.
You're welcome.
Next is our public comments. Correct? I'm having some technical difficulties with the paper and what's on the screen as far as the order in which we're going. So
I understand.
Okay.
Yes, sir. We have the investment letter
Okay.
for LGIP. You want to take care of that before you do the public comments, and I think everything else is informational outside of the report from Mr. Phelps from Emergency Services, and then the county administrator's report.
Okay, so I didn't have that. Okay, we have the investment letter. We're still going to entertain the Blackwater Regional Library?
That is for your information. That's
Okay.
there's
So we
no
have
way
the
to
investment
present.
letter at this time.
Mr. Chairman, I do not believe the treasurer is on. You do have before you the investment letter. It indicates that the local government investment pool totaled $19.0 million. Since that report, they received accrued interest from March 2021 in the amount of $1,554, increasing the balance in the local government investment pool to $19,016,130. Since that last report, $2 million was transferred from LGIP, leaving a general fund balance of $17.01 million. The following investments I noted: LGIP, the $17.016 million, EVB, accrued interest, $500,000. And that gives us a total investment at the date of this report of $17,516,130, and that was reported by Ms. Onique Ruffin, Surrey County Treasurer.
Thank you, Ms. Rollins, for giving us the information on the investment letter for March 2021. We will now move to our public comments. We do have some citizens here in person, and we're going to entertain those citizens who are in person first, and then we will move to the online comments if we have any. So at this time, we do open up the floor for public comments, and if you're here, would you please come and state your name and your district, and you have 3 minutes to make your comments to the board.
Pass something out to you. Can I pass a piece of paper out to you? Part of my presentation. In case somebody didn't get my emails.
Could you leave it for us and we'll get it?
I have a video also that I was going to show, but Chairman Elliott, board members, my name is Susan Corvello from Spring Grove. And in reference to the Cavalier Solar Plant, I personally believe, after hearing the Planning Commission's public hearing and the public hearing from the Board of Supervisors on this matter, that the county needed a little bit more research and feedback to the citizens on what you may have received corrections on before you agreed to this project. Looking from the minutes, there were 9 against and 6 for. So looking at the people that spoke out at your meetings, it was not 50-50. There's several surrounding residents for this project that have been unanswered questions. Strata made agreements with some residents and then changed the terms after the county's approval of the solar project. We don't need this to happen again. There's many citizens that have been affected by the Strata solar project, from low barriers, pine trees is what they're calling their barriers, and water runoff. I've sent an email out to all of y'all if you've seen it. I've attached the pictures of the glebe, which is a historical site, and the runoff that they have from this project. There's a house that's on Beaver Dam that looks like a river that goes through his house and his property when it rains. If you don't live on the outskirts of this property, you don't see it. If you don't drive the roads that these people have to drive on, you don't see it. You need to go to the places and speak to the people from these projects. If we don't have a project manager that watches these projects and makes sure that these solar plants are doing what they are required to do, you're going to have the same situation in this Cavalier project. It sounds great. Money sounds great. If we're making so much money off of these solar plants, and we're going to get another one now since you've approved it, why do our taxes have to go up so much? Have an assessment. It's not going to be 6 cents after you've done assessments also. It's going to be more than 6 cents. You need to talk to your citizens, and you need to get feedback from your citizens. If you've gotten questions, I know that there was another email sent out that had specific questions that have not been answered. She didn't get any feedback on her answers if they've been approved or if they've been corrected from Cavalier. Nobody has given feedback to the citizens. If you keep allowing this to come into the agricultural county, our county's not going to grow in population. Would you want to live right next door to a solar plant? Pretty much everybody that's going to be affected by this that don't want it is going to leave the county. They're going to have a hard time probably finding somebody to buy their house.
Thank you, Ms. Covello. 3 minutes. I would just do want to respond to you. The issues that were given to us through email, they were addressed with Cavalier Solar, and they have given assurance, especially the flooding issue, that these things will be taken into consideration and they will put the proper safeguards in place. So we are hearing you. You may not get a direct email back, but these issues have been addressed, especially by Mr. Drury. He took all those issues to them, and we've gotten some safeguards in place to give us some protection in those situations.
Then I think you need to give that back to the citizens. If they're sending you emails, then you need to respond back to those emails and correct what's been questioned, especially from the Planning Commission, when they had so many unanswered questions and they don't have answers for them. They haven't been responded to.
Okay, I was responding to some of the things that you said. Thank you. Are there any, anyone else here public? Yes, Mr. Phelps.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna put my citizen hat on. Name's Ray Phelps. I'm a citizen of Carsley District. Good evening, Chairman of the board, board members. I wanted to address the garbage collection issues just real quick. And from what I understand from when they started this, that it was exclusively Bay Disposal that was going to be for the county. We contacted Bay Disposal to see about having our trash collected, and we were denied service. So the one thing I want to do is my question is this just for the towns, or my understanding was for the entire county? But we were denied service we were told that we were too far away from the towns. So it's just a concern because we would like to be offered that service and further out also. So that's, just take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Phelps.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Drury.
If I may interrupt.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Rollins, can you answer his questions? I thought it was for countywide.
Yes. No, looking at the agreement, it actually excluded with the exception of the town. So I actually have it up here now. Let's see what it says here to answer that question. It says, whereas the county has adopted an ordinance establishing the entire county, excluding the towns, as an exclusive zone for the collection of residential municipal waste. So according to this, it was the entire county excluding the towns. And also while I'm on this, Mr. Chairman, if I may add, we talked earlier about the term. It states here that the contractor agrees to provide residential and commercial business collection services for 1 year beginning July 1, 2018 and ending June 30 of 2019, with the option to renew this agreement for up to 4 one-year terms. Annual renewal shall continue automatically unless one party notifies the other of its intent to terminate within 60 days. And that is what we did prior to May 1st.
Madam Chair, excuse me. One to your right and one to the left. Mr. Chair, if I could, and sorry but this is an interesting topic because it was my understanding, yes, it was, as you stated, countywide. Mm-hmm. And just to address this, because I know people around me have the same thing too, and Mr. Phelps, I'm glad you brought this up too. Not a personal complaint, but I've inquired about it as well and never have gotten any answers. So not a complaint other than something's a little askew. So I've called and inquired. You got an answer. I've never even got an answer. So thanks. Maybe we could look into it.
Absolutely. This is part of our discussions that we can have before we bring forth any contract. Yes.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we definitely want to address that. Thank you, Mr. Phelps. Any other citizen present would like to have public comments? If there be none other present, we will open it up now to our online community. If you are online and you would like to have public comments, please state your name and your district, and you will have 3 minutes to speak to the board. Going once. Going twice. We do close public comments at this time. We will now have our county administrator's report.
Yes, okay. Mr. Chairman, before I begin the report, I just wanted to remind the board that the comments that we do receive in the comments, Board of Supervisors email, that you all did receive those comments. There was an inquiry we sent to Ms. Frances Bailey later in the day, and she responded, and I believe this may be pertaining to Mr. Covello's question regarding flooding, and I wanted to share with you that I will resend their response to the Board of Supervisors' attention.
Thank you, Ms.
Okay.
Rollins.
Yes, so good evening again, members of the board and the citizens who are in the audience and those who are attending virtually this afternoon. It's hard to show excitement behind the mask, but there is a lot of excitement as we are preparing for the warmer weather. You have heard the report from our Economic Development Director, Mr. Jabri, but in addition to Mr. Jabri, we of course have Parks and Recreation and Extension, Tourism, Youth and Family Resources, and our school division and social services are indeed planning and preparing for activities to engage our citizens and to provide things to do in Surrey County. He already talked about that first Friday Farmers Market, and as you all heard, there are some different things down the pipe for this year's Farmers Market. It has been widely advertised. It wasn't mentioned, but postcards were sent home. Were sent to each homeowner. It's on our Facebook pages. It was a wonderful article that was in the newspaper. But board members, our market can only be successful with the support of our citizens and those who come by visiting the county. These activities have been carefully planned for the enjoyment of the entire community right under the beautifully constructed Farmers Market Pavilion. So as you can see, as Mr. Jobber stated, there is that platform that we have been working with collectively with several departments in the county to make sure that we have a successful market season beginning in 2021 May. Social services are looking to re-engage and to re-energize the seniors in the community who, due to COVID, have missed the weekly interaction with each other at Parks and Recreation. And they have been planning some safe social distance hours for the seniors to connect underneath the Market Pavilion during the week until such time a more permanent location is made available for our seniors in the community. At this time, I want to go on record in thanking Dr. Sims, Division Superintendent, and the school board and staff for executing a wonderful, safe, and vibrant mini homecoming parade on April 23rd. It was well attended, and as Mrs. Little and I rode through, if you can test with me, Mrs. Little, it was great to see that spirit and unity in the community from that homecoming parade that was on April 23rd. The movie night that followed appears to have received rave reviews according to the article that was in the paper, and it was indeed great to feel some sense of normalcy in the midst of still having to follow safety protocols. Next, board members, if you recall, the lease agreement for the marina stipulates that the operators will employ a dock hand to assist with the fueling and directions to boaters, Mr. Calhoun, during the summer months. Beginning Memorial Day weekend, the dock hands are to be on site according to the operators. In addition, county staff, team members are connecting the dots. We are thinking about integrated approaches as it pertains to Parks and Recreation, Community and Economic Development, and Tourism, all working as one unit for a common goal to benefit the community, providing good times and quality of life that people earn for now more than ever during this pandemic. The resolution that you all approved designating Grays Creek Marina and Grays Creek Trail as a recreational area for Surrey County citizens and visitors supports this goal, and we are looking forward to sharing with you the plans for kayaking and other opportunities for our citizens to really enjoy. April 2021 was County Cleanup Month, Litter Control Month, and board members Ms. Chapman, who's in the back, serves as our County Litter Control Coordinator, and she did an outstanding job this year coordinating the employee cleanup. You see the informational item that's in your agenda, but I do want to take a note to say that we had great employee participation this year with 35 employees participating. And it was great that we was able to do this. 55 orange VDOT supplied bags of trash were picked up along Highway 10 from Anos Farm Drive to Hollybush Road and also on Goodson Path. Now, board members, citizens, while we collectively enjoyed getting out and cleaning up our adopted highway, it was somewhat disappointing, I guess I can say, that our roads had so much debris. Goodson Path, en route to the collection boxes, we picked up garbage bags of trash that were just thrown to the side. Now, we are thinking about ways that we can prevent litter in the county, but we do want our citizens to know the times and hours that our convenience sites are open so trash can be properly disposed of. And I'm sure that if there are ways out there that we can help prevent litter in the county, please share those ideas with Ms. Chapman. She would love to hear them. We will be placing do not litter signs in some areas as a result of our cleanup activities last week. Also, a huge thanks to the Surrey Garden Club and the Virginia Cooperative Extension 4-H for assisting and beautifying Oak Park. While this park is included in the town of Surrey, it makes the drive to the government center a little bit more pleasant when we have individuals and groups out there cleaning that park. If there is a citizen group that has participated in the county doing cleanup efforts, please let Ms. Chapman know so that you can be recognized for your contributions. The Government Center has a new, fresh look, finally, with the completion of the electronic messaging sign that you all probably saw when you drove up and that you can see when you do pass by. It does make a warm addition to the grounds, and it will be used to advertise events, meetings, pertinent community messages. The sign on Holly Beach Road in 31 is near completion and waiting on final power connection. Our local businesses, Surrey County, are making a difference. I happened to stop by Creative Work Gallery and Cafe, and the owner advised me that on tomorrow, Channel 3 News will be stopping by for a good community story on the Small Town Cafe and Art Gallery. This is great publicity for the restaurant and art gallery and for Surrey County, making the news in a positive way. So when you see the Channel 3 truck in the town of Surrey, you know that it's good news and not bad news. That's a great thing. Yeah. The Mayos, who are operators, are very hardworking, and it shows. This is a good news story. Project updates, employee highlights. At this time, I want to take a second just to commend Mr. Stacy Williams, who has been diligently and effectively working in a dual role of facility management, project manager, while still temporarily handling inspections. We board members, I'm just going to have to say, we are trying and we're doing a much better job at ensuring that the dozens of buildings and county grounds are being monitored and managed, connecting the dots with all departments so that we can have a centralized approach to facility management. His progress has been to engage team members, evaluate skills, and place them throughout the organization where their skill sets can be best utilized. Monitor contract work for better accountability and implementation of plans to train and cross-train where needed. We have worked hard and we have our work cut out for us. If you recall with some of the one-on-one discussions that I've had with you all, this government center alone has 33 HVAC units, of which a handful of those units are less than 5 years old. Our employees are certainly our greatest assets, and without them, we cannot operate and do the things that this community requires us to do. So we do want to recognize that we seek talent, energy, passion, and creativity as traits for today's workforce. Connecting our citizens to our meetings. At the April work session, we have had the opportunity to introduce another platform for citizen engagement via YouTube and Facebook Live, where citizens can safely watch the meetings from the comfort of their home or wherever they may be. While this is a work in progress, Mr. Brown is consistently being forward-thinking, and we thank him and his team for navigating through these challenges of this virtual platform, and they have done an outstanding job. We continue to provide excellent service in the community as pertains to our vaccination and planning execution. We continue to receive positive feedback from the work of Mr. Phelps, and those outside of this community have really complimented us on this effort in the county. Board members, I can tell you that there is more than one thing that I can tell you that we have been looked at as a model community. I was on the phone call with another county administrator this past week in the Crater region, and they shared with me that our social services programs, for example, have been looked at, and that locality was very impressed about what we were doing and that they were going to implement some of the same things in their community. So we are making great strides. That is the only thing that I have to report this afternoon. I think the reports from staff speak volumes to the work that we continue to do to serve Surrey County citizens the best to our abilities. We enjoy what we do, and we look forward to the next stage in terms of our budget process, whereby we will have a public hearing on May the 13th. And I believe that time is scheduled for 6 o'clock, I think was advertised. 7, Ms. Chapman? 6, okay, 6 o'clock. And that concludes my report for tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, board members.
Thank you, Ms. Rollins. Do you have any information you would like to give us as far as board and commissions?
Yes, sir. So in your agenda material, you have several pages that show the boards and commissions and their terms. That is for your information tonight. Do not expect the board to make any type of appointments. But if you recall, one of the things that I thought about, and you board members can tell me whether or not you would like me to do this, is when Mr. Warner was here as interim county administrator, he introduced, I believe, a method by which citizens who were interested in serving on boards and commissions, they would actually fill out a little mini application online, and it would serve as a tool for you board members so that you all would have an avenue to go to and pick for those citizens who are desiring to serve on the various boards and commissions. We'll ask them just to give a little statement as to why they want to serve. And also outstanding board members, we do have the code of ethics that you all adopted, and it was an expectation that boards and commissions will also sign off on that. So that's something, if you'd like me to, I can make that available and have on our website for citizens who may be interested in serving on the various boards, because we do have a lot of terms that have expired. I guess the COVID pandemic kind of caught us and not being able to catch up with that, but we're trying to go back and get those situated so we can have current terms. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ross. I don't think I just speak for myself. I think it would be a great idea to do that. I don't think any board member would have any objection to do that, to get some volunteers to serve on these boards, then we can have a pool to draw from. Board members?
I agree with that.
I agree with it.
So do I. Think it's a great idea.
Mr. Chair, Mike Drury, I agree as well, and I've got just one comment looking through the board appointments. And you're right, COVID hit us, and I made a motion back in 2016 for Mr. Earl Newby to be on the Planning Commission in the Blackwater District. Ms. Carmen Judkins, her expiration came up right as COVID hit, and I did not make a motion for that because I've had it on my list. It lists her as being approved in February of 2020. I don't remember that because it was still on my due list.
Okay.
So if you don't mind checking that out. I think I've got 2 appointments to make.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, thank you, Ms. Rollins, for the update and the administrator's report. At this time, we have Mr. Phelps here. Could he give us a report on our emergency services?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Chairman of the Board and board members again. I wanted to share in Surrey County's COVID vaccination rate success with you guys. Right now, we're at currently at roughly 45% of our community has received its first dose, and we're at 35% plus that have received a complete vaccination. So we're leading the Crater Health District in the vaccination rate. So, and I attribute that to a lot of hard work from staff and a great volunteer rate from our community. We've had great outpour of volunteers. One of the things that we were able to do over the last couple vaccination clinics that we had, we also incorporated a food drive within those, and we collected over 20 cases of food and took that to the Christian Outreach program out there in Smithfield, and they service Surrey County as well as Isle of Wight County. So it was a great success. Our next vaccination clinic is May 19th. It's going to be at the Surrey Parks and Recreation Center. We're mainly doing second dose Moderna, but we'll also be offering first dose J&J. So we're winding down. We're finding that we've made roughly 100 phone calls over the last couple of days, and I've only booked 7 people for new vaccinations. So most people have found that vaccination, or they don't want to get it, is what we're finding out. So we're leading that way. But we're currently working with Hampton University to offer Pfizer vaccines for our students, and we're pushing to do this before school is out. So our first clinic for the Pfizer's a 2-shot process, and that's eligible from 16 years old or older. So we're working with the school board and we have roughly 50 students that are eligible for this vaccination, so we'll be offering that on May 20th and then the follow-up on June 10th. So we're able to get that in before they go on summer break, so which is a great success for us. And we're looking forward to working with Hampton University with Dr. Michelle Penn Marshall. I get them mixed up. But also, we're no longer doing testing in Surrey County. So if there are any citizens that would like to be tested, it's a regional test now. They can go to the Pathways Nonprofit Community Development Clinic or corporation. It's at 1200 Washington Street up in Petersburg. So we still offer regional testing, but we're finding that we put together a test site here and we may only have 1 or 2 people actually show up, if any. So we've condensed that to a regional test site up at Pathways. But things are going very well, and I appreciate all the help and support that we've received from the board and from the community and our volunteers. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Phelps, and thank you
Great
to
job.
you and your staff for doing an excellent job providing this service to the citizens of Surrey County during this pandemic. We do, as chairman of the board, and I'm sure the board would agree with me, we do applaud you and the efforts that your staff has given the citizens of Surrey County. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Board members, we have other items for informational purposes only. That we have 4 different items for informational purposes only. If there be no other items to come to our attention, we do have one closed session item before adjournment. And at this time, we will ask Ms. Powell to come and give us the statement in regards to our...
Mr. Chair, I know the agenda's been a little bit confusing this evening. Are we going to have board comments?
We was gonna do that before we closed. I was gonna do the closed session, then come in and with the board comments and then the adjournment.
That's fine, but while people are here, so.
Well, we can,
That'll be okay.
again, we can make adjustments, no problem. We can do things on the fly. We can do board comments at this time. That will be fine. Any board members will have comments. Mr. Drury, you first up.
Since I asked, I guess I'm on the podium too. I just wanted to say that, again, with the solar coming up this evening, I know, and again, I took it down. I went out and talked to citizens, and the night that we had the public hearing, I could go back to my notes, but it was 50-50. It was evenly split, and I've seen that throughout localities and other localities. It's evenly split. With some people supporting property rights and some people, neighbors, not supporting that avenue. But with that said, I'll have to say that strata, in going back and looking at the conditions, some of the conditions are fairly loose. And if there are issues out there, they should be resolved. And I know, and I think maybe in the budget this year, we've got I don't want to call it building inspector, but
Code enforcement.
Right. And the staff, I know, is stretched pretty thin. And undoubtedly, myself being involved in local government, you come in with a do list, and seldom do you get through that do list because there are other issues that come up. But we do need to hold the feet to the fire, such as strata, because I know there are issues out there. I've been out there myself and looked, and sometimes been pleased and sometimes have not been pleased. And I hear reports of the flooding and so forth. So we need to hold them accountable if we can. So in the interim, I don't mind going at them myself. I'm not an expert engineer, but I certainly can see things. With Cavalier, I expect us to do the same. And my experience so far with Cavalier has been that when there's an issue, they resolve it. So even if it's not in the condition, I expect them to resolve it. So citizens, please call your supervisor and tell us about these issues, because we don't know. Myself, and I know Ms. Little, although I was going to say I'm not retired, I'm not sure you are. I mean, in other words, there's a lot of issues that come up in personal and family and everything else. We Board of Supervisors members cannot be everywhere in the county and look at every issue. I work multiple jobs, and so it's up to the citizens to call us and tell us about these issues. And I will guarantee you, and I think that if any citizen tells you not, in the district that I represent and beyond, but especially in the district I represent, when I get a complaint, I call them back. When there were issues about this project, it's right on Miss Little's in my district, but then when there were issues about this project, I went out there and met with them. I got in touch with Cavalier. I went back to the landowner to see if it resolved, and every time I went back, the issue had been resolved. And so my point of it is, I can't go out there and knock on every door every week. It's got some responsibility has got to be placed upon the citizens. As the U.S. Constitution says, it's we the people, not we the Republicans or we the Democrats. And sorry to get on a rant, but man, citizens can't have apathy. They've got to help. I have told people when I ran for this position that I would serve 2 terms. This is my last term. And it's not that I don't want to help the county, but there are other ways I think other people ought to become involved, because it does take time. Instead of spending time on my farm in the evening, I could have used it this evening, I'm here. So people, come on, speak up, get out. I'm tired of the apathy. How can I say it? I had apathy too, but I was served. And people, you got to speak up. And the reason I'm on a tangent on this is I have written newsletters in my district. I have twice put out polling in my district. Maybe I get out of the 600 polling less than 10 responses. I have monthly virtual meetings. Maybe 2 people out of the district attend it. And on and on and on. And then I have people talk about board members and everything. I'm trying. But I see apathy in the people. Man, you got to get involved. It's your government. And sorry to be on a rant about it, but it's your government, man. So that's my speech. And Mr. Chair, thank you for letting me rant a little bit. But man, after trying this for my 5.5 years it's like pulling teeth out there to get people involved in Surrey County, and it will not improve unless the people get involved. And I'm not talking about a county administrator doing something, anything else. You got to let us know and get involved to make things the way you want it. Don't just sit back there and complain. Complain and have a solution, and then help implement it. So, hey, I may go home tonight and see Facebook postings, but that Michael Drew, he's a jerk, because I see that quite often anyway. But you got to get involved. This is my involvement with the county, and at some point, I won't be doing this. So get involved. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Drury. Do we have any other board comments at this time?
Mr. Chairman, I share Mr. Drury's thoughts. I do not do those things in my district. I don't do newsletters. I do talk to my citizens, and I welcome their phone calls, and when they call, I do my best to investigate what the problem is, and I think that's my job, and I do that to the best of my ability, because it does concern me when they have things that concern them. On another light, I wanted to share, I don't know if you all knew or read this, but and maybe this may be a hoax, I don't know if I'm the only one that know. But the Dominion permit has been extended for another 20 years.
20 years, 2052
Thank you.
and 2052 and 2053.
Good news
Absolutely.
for those who were concerned that your tax dollars would explode. So thank God, I wanted to share that with you. And yes, we are in a budget season, and listening to our finance report, we are, as usual, doing very well, and hope we stay on track with that. And so we want to thank you for those citizens who just find it okay not to complain. That's good too. That means that you're okay and happy in my book. But now, if you're not, as Mr. Drury is stating, please let us know, because we don't want you to be out there having an issue and we don't know anything about it. And if we do, I'm sure each one of us is going to look into that issue, regardless of what district. And I do support a project manager or someone dedicated to the solar farms. I don't think we can just leave it up to the staff that we have today. I think that we need a dedicated person to make sure on a regular basis that they are doing what they are called, have stated they would do. Because if I'm flooding and nobody knows it, it's just certain things that just have to be. The roads. Now, we all know we have colonial roads, and they're already a problem. And so when they get to be a more serious problem, VDOT, they're there. And they always, whenever I've called VDOT and say, hey, there's a problem here or there, they accommodate. They're very good with that. So please let VDOT know when there's a problem. And they do have, I think you can just go on their website and find the phone number. But they're there. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Little. Any other board comments?
Mr. Elliott and Tim Calhoun, again, with Ms. Little and with what Mike said previously, I believe our community, our districts, and our county needs to get involved more. I have a very small handful in Surrey District that I do get phone calls from, not very often, but gosh darn, sometimes you go up to the 7-Eleven or go to the Dollar General and then you just get berated and attacked, and it's not a welcoming experience. I listen and I try to remember, go home and take notes, and Ms. Ross can attest, I've called her on a few occasions. But as Mr. Drury said, if you have an issue, please come to the board member with your issue, potential resolution, and then we can start a game plan. We don't have all the easy buttons sitting up here facing you all and you all listening to our voice and maybe seeing us. We do need your all support. Ms. Rollins, I was so excited that we're having a dock master, because I sure could have used one Tuesday. I pulled my 26-foot boat up to the marina and the wind was terrible and I could barely get it docked. But thank you so very much. I'm looking forward to seeing them out there. And thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Calhoun. You left, Mr. Howell?
Well, I don't have many comments, but I do share in the sentiments being the newest person to the board. But I would say that the only way that me being a citizen and me serving as a member of the board, that we can make our county better is that we begin to bring forth the issues and the concerns. And I like the way I've heard put by the other members of the board, that just don't bring the issue and concern, help bring a resolution. I like to say that I'm not always problem-centered, but I'm more solution-driven. And so I think if we become solution-driven and we work together in tandem and collectively, then there's no problem that will be too hard for us to solve.
Thank you, Mr. Howell. I would like to say ditto to all of the comments that the board has made tonight, and we all do things differently. I want to assure the citizens of the county that the board definitely have your best interests at heart. When we get some emails, we may not respond back. I know Mr. Drury talked about having his citizens meetings, and I do believe that the pandemic had hurt us in some regards as to direct communication, and we're gradually getting back now where we are having these meetings in person. But I want you to know, fellow citizens of Surrey County, that your comments and everything that you give, they have not gone unnoticed. When we receive the emails, I can personally say that I have investigated. I may not get back to you in the email, but I've investigated the things that you are concerned about Like everybody else on the board, we have a full plate, but your comments and concerns do not go unnoticed. And I just want to let you know that we are doing what we think is best for the county. Everybody's not going to be pleased with the decisions that you make. You're going to have some that's pleased with what you're doing and some that you're not. But as board members, I think once we get the comments and concerns from the citizens, then it's incumbent upon us to make the decisions that you have put us in place to make. And again, I do know that the board members that I do serve with do have the best interests of the county at heart at all times. A lot of times, some of the comments are being made, and the citizens are not privy to some of the information that the board members have. So I can see how you would get restless and think that we're not taking what you're saying in consideration. But believe me, we are. I stay on the phone constantly with administration and staff from the comments that we get from the citizens, because it is our desire to do what's best for the county. And if no one else have any other comments, that will be the board comments for this evening.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Ms. Rollins.
Yes, if I may, because the subject matter has been brought up, I think it would be fitting at this time if I share some additional information I think that may help you as board members and the citizens. It's pertaining to the information that was shared regarding the concerns about the Strata Solar project. And I want to share that some of the images that were shared regarding the flooding and so forth were sent to Mrs. Frances Bailey, who serves as the County Erosion and Sediment and Control Coordinator. And when they were sent to her, she did respond that she personally had not received those complaints. And what she did was she forwarded those images to someone at Strata Solar. Strata Solar has an environmental inspector on site. DEQ does site inspections. There is a third-party inspector that has several inspectors on site that do inspections every 3 to 4 days, and she also does inspections. She got a response back from someone at Strata Solar, and the images that were shared, she said that the person did recognize the photos and said that the flooding occurred when we had the bad rainstorm back in August near VDOT. The repairs were made to fix the problem with the property owner's consent. The incident occurred during an extraordinary rain event, and this is something that is not ongoing. And the only thing that I can also add to that is Mr. Drury made an excellent point in that the county is trying to hire a code enforcement officer. In addition, also we are seeking definitely to have certain contractual services in place to be able to assist us in the solar farm operations. As you all know, this is something that is our second time around, but we try to learn from those things the first and trying to do better on the second go round. So I just thought it would be fitting for me to add those comments. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to do so.
Thank you, Ms. Rollins.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I want to say thank you to our administrator because I was not aware of that. So that is wonderful. I'm glad that there is someone out there that is monitoring what is happening, because when you hear these things and you don't know that, well, they are being monitored. So I don't understand the issue right now. But anyway, it's wonderful to know that they are being monitored. And we have, what, you named about 3 different groups, I think.
Yes.
And so thank you for that update.
And I can tell you that Ms. Bailey does an outstanding job for the county. Just have to say a point of reference, she was monitoring, for an example, at the emergency operations building where we have the pond over there where we need to have the grass growing. And as of now, we still have not permitted or let E.T. Gresham off the hook, I have to say that, because there's additional work that they have to do, and Ms. Frances Bailey, as our ENS control inspector, is not going to sign it off until they do what they need to do. So she's on her job. Thank you.
Very good. Very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
I truly believe, as my prior statements where I think everybody's doing what is best for the county. I do think that, I know communication is always key, and sometimes information is not given back to the citizens that the board members have, but there has to be in this position a level of trust between the board and the citizens, because the citizens will not always be privy to the information that the board members get, but again, there has to be a level of trust, knowing that we're doing what we deem to be best for the county at all times. Thank you, board members. At this time, we will move into closed session, and we will ask Ms. Powell if she come to give us the statement regarding the closed session.
Good evening again. I ask for a motion to go into closed session under 2.23711A1, discussion or consideration of prospective candidates for employment to fill the position of the planning director.
You get a motion?
So moved.
You have a second?
Second.
Proper move and second. All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There be none, motion is carried. We will enter into closed session at this time. Sheriff is going to direct us. It's going to be short. Yeah. Good, take care of your business. Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay. We good. We good. You do. Yeah.
Ms.
Okay,
Rollins,
until I can get.
do I need to fill all of this out or just sign this? Lauren gave me this. I'll sign and let you take care of the rest. Okay. Needed to be said. Needed to be said.
Like, come on, man.
Needed to be said.
All right.
Did Ms. Bailey provide additional clarification?
Yeah.
Good, okay.
All's well.
Where'd you go?
Everybody's here. Ms. Powell
We all set up to online.
and Mr. Brown here.
I don't think I'm on. Okay.
You don't have to speak if they're unmuted.
Oh, yes, yeah. So y'all unmuted.
Okay.
Okay.
We're good? Okay. Ask for a motion to return to open session and certify by roll call vote that only public business matters as discussed in the motion for a closed session were in fact heard, discussed, and considered during the closed session.
So moved.
You have a second?
Second.
All in favor, let it be known by voting sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We are now at the adjournment of our meeting, and we will entertain a motion for adjournment until May the 13th at 6 o'clock for our budget public hearing meeting. Could we get a motion?
Mr. Chairman, so move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye.
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 Opposed? See you next Thursday at 6 o'clock.
Next Thursday, 6 o'clock.
I got you. I will certainly do that. Thank you so much.